Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
I want to say welcome to the Wake Up Now podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster III. I am CEO of Wake Up Global Networks, and also I am the owner of D3 Consultants, LLC. Welcome to another exciting time. At the beginning, and even those of you who are watching the repeat, I want you to smash the like button. Kudos to all of those of you who made our first 2 episodes a tremendous, tremendous success. And again, continue to like and share and follow on this network. And of course, you can go to Wake Up Global TV. I am excited about the information that we're going to share today. I am excited about you being here. Now, before we get started, remember every Sunday morning on this network at 7 a.m. Now, I know it's daylight saving times last week, and it may have been a little mix up, but 7 a.m. we have what's called the Voice of Hope Connection, where you will be encouraged, inspired, and God gives me a word, maybe no more than 5 to 7 minutes, to help get you through the week. Meet us here on this network. Also, we want to remind you, immediately following that at 7:30, you can call into a live Voice of Healing community prayer call. That number, again, to call in is 605-313 5835. 313-5835. And of course, the access code is 1783334. 1783334. Now, the VoiceOver podcast can be heard on WPB Media Radio. We encourage you to go there to find it. And we want you to take full advantage of having us wherever you go, even on vacation. I am so excited. Follow us on our brand new social media platform. That's the VoiceOver Podcast on IG. Have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? On IG and on TikTok. And the VoiceOver Pod on Twitter. That way you'll know what guests we have, what the show topic is going to be about. Keep up with what we are doing. I'm so excited. And then, that's right, and then, if you are led to sow a seed, we have so much work to do. And what we need is money, even our equipment. And so if you're being blessed by these podcasts or by the services that we're offering, the Believers Voice of Hope or the prayer line, then you can give PayPal or Zelle through Wake Up, WAKEUPP03@gmail.com. That is PayPal and Zelle, and it will be tax deductible because we are a nonprofit corporation. All right. And so I want to say thank you. Finally, before we get into the content, but this is most important, as we honor, as we take this month to celebrate Women's History Month, celebrating and commemorating the work that women have done in society and on this globe, as a matter of fact. And so today we want to honor and celebrate. Come on, drum roll. This woman is a mother. She is an entrepreneur. She is a minister, and she is the co-owner, no, not co, she is the owner of this network, WPBMediaNetworks.com. No other than Minister April Hall. We want to say thank you for your contribution to our community and to our local community. Thank you for having vision to start a network that voices can be heard. And so on the behalf of myself and the Wake Up Global Networks team, and to all of us that join in, to say thank you for all of your contributions. I don't think there's any greater woman that can be honored than April J. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. All right. So I want to say to all of the women, Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for what you're doing. And thank you for the contributions that we know that you will continue to make. I am very ultra. Did I tell you to smash that like? Did I tell you to share? Okay, I told you that. Did I tell you to make sure you follow? Make sure you keep up. But I just had to put that in there. I am ultra excited about this conversation that you and I are going to have today. This is something that I've been wanting to discuss for actually literally years, but everything I do has to have a divine timing with it. I believe so much in divine timing. People say you always mention the books you have. Where are they? I believe so much in divine timing. But several years ago, I began to write a book called The Power of Media, right? The Power of Media. And so we are continuing in our series, The Current and Future State of Conversation. Last week, it was the current and future state of politics in this country. This week, I want to talk about the current and future state with media and the entertainment industry. I want to talk about where are we with media? Where are we with the entertainment industry? I want to ask you a question. Come here, come close, share this. How trustworthy, in your opinion, is the mainstream media as eyes that you can look through and get truth in reality? This is where I want to start this. How trustworthy is the mainstream? And when I say mainstream, I'm talking about like your cable news networks. I'm talking about like your main networks, right? How trustworthy? How trustworthy is mainstream media, in your opinion, that you can use them in what they report as a lens for clarity and truth? Now, on the heels of that, I'm going to make a statement. And no offense to people that work I know people very integrous that work in mainstream media, but I'm more talking about the system, and you'll understand it as we get into this, and how it's set up and how its purpose to operate. That's more of what I'm talking about. So how trustworthy is the news, the information, reliable that you get? Because I don't really watch it that much anymore from mainstream media. In my opinion, in the words of the movie, for most, and I'm not talking about personalities, of mainstream media, I would say, don't believe your lying eyes. Huh? What do you say? Don't believe your lying eyes. I want to read you something, a quote, and you can go online and look it up. Former MSNBC host Medea, Mehdia Hansen reveals, and I quote, "The mainstream media has been manipulating viewers intentionally and crafting narratives. So we will stop with the charade that this is a legal story," Hansen said, about President Trump's legal battles in an interview on News Nation with Cuomo. I'm reading a quote. I'm reading a quote. Politicians and the media operate together. Now, I've been saying this, and this is in my book, to brainwash their victims. They mix truth with lies. Most people call it fake news. To essentially override, oh God, get this, and you can look this statement up, to override independent thinking. I call it social engineering. That's what I call it. To engineer, to get your brain thinking in the directive of their narrative. That's what I call it. He goes on to say, and instill a delusion. They mix truth with lies to essentially override independent thinking and instill delusion, that which is not real. Wow. And this quote again is by former MSNBC host Medea, Mehdia Hassan, Hasan. Let me go back to the original question. In your opinion, is mainstream media a clear lens that you can look through to get truth and clarity? Now, this is probably very surprising to most of you that are viewing, because we have been led to believe that plain and simple, the job of the media is to report the facts, right? We should assume that, right? That the job of the media is to report facts. And it used to be until you say, until what? Until what? The insertion of 24-hour news networks. Because you remember, some depend on how old you are, how long you've been around, that there was the 6 o'clock news. Then it started being the 5 o'clock news and the 6 o'clock news. Then it started being the 4 o'clock news, 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news. It used to be the 11 o'clock news at night. Then it was the 10 o'clock news, and then the 11 o'clock news. News started 6 in the morning. Now the news starts 4 in the morning, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, take a little break and come back at 4. Now, I'm saying all of this with purpose of how I believe, in my opinion, and others would agree, that the news shifted from reporting facts to, I don't want to use the word fake news, but to becoming what this former host of MSNBC says, essentially to social engineer the viewers. Now, let me read this. On June 1st, cable news network, remember CNN, the world's first 24-hour network. Up until then, most people got their news from the newspaper. You remember that? My dad used to get, we lived in Baltimore at the time, the Evening Sun, right? Until then, most people got their news from the newspaper or the evening news or the main networks, NBC, ABC, CBS. That change In the early 80s, largely as a result of the war, people wanted to know what was happening 24/7. They didn't, especially now. I mean, really, now, who looks at the news? Matter of fact, the information comes across my social media feed much quicker than it does. You can wait. Who waits to see it on TV? When it comes on television, it's late. It's old. You're like, oh, I've been heard that. Because now we have 24-hour social media where people can just pop a button and release information to the world. That's good. And it has its challenges. And we're going to talk about that. Okay, I'll get to that. Did you share yet? Did you share? I'm gonna get to some stuff. As a result of what's called education 24-hour news cycles, and I finished reading the quote, and that is that just people wanted news 24 hours. They didn't want to wait till 6, especially this really started at the inception in the 80s of CNN. And then you had other 24-hour. And then you can wake up or walk home or be out any time of night. And there's news, local news, world news, the media. And as I said before, that this is one of the most powerful entities, and the powers that be know it. And they know how to capitalize and use this. If there was ever a mind molder or a mind shaper, it is the power of media. Yes, it is. And most people, because of the way they're wired, and because it's the news, we believe what's reported. And yet I'm about to show you, and this is something I've known for years, and I've taught it for years, but I think everything is released in its time and in its season, that it ain't necessarily no more to report facts and truth. It has become a machine to mold and to shape minds. Now, I think media in the past is dead. What's the current state? I mean, really, unless you're confined, and even then, if you have a phone, who sits down and says, I'm waiting for the 5 o'clock news. I'm waiting for the 6 o'clock news. What can the 5 or the 6 o'clock news tell me that I can't get off my phone? Now I'm going somewhere with this. So for the purpose of survival, now I'm turning a corner, because mainstream media is smart enough to know that that's not where we go. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, and all of those other networks, for the most part, to get our news. My belief is, this is my opinion, and I'm sure there are other people who would agree with this. My belief is that the news networks had to become more salacious in order for the purpose of survival. Oh yeah, that's what I believe. And I believe that the networks had to become more salacious, slanting truth, because they know that they're on the brink of becoming extinct. Now, and again, I am by no ways, and I've said this, a conspiracy theorist, but my eyes are wide open. And so then you begin to see, especially it started on the major networks, the cable networks, the 24, the slanting of agendas. You can turn on certain networks and tell what party they back. So these networks became more political, and you can really see that when it comes to presidential races and when it comes to caucuses, because now they move into, this is my opinion with my view, the business of brainwashing the minds of the masses to serve particular agendas. And that's where I believe mainstream media is today. It serves, depending on what network it serves particular agendas. And again, this is just a confirmation for a book that I have and talk about the power of media. That when you understand the concept of the word media, medium, medius, messenger, medium, there are mediums who communicate with the dead. Let's do the word study. Media, the power of media. And I proclaim in that book that it's not to get the truth out any longer, but it is to mold the minds based on whose agenda they're serving. This is just my opinion. See, on the Voice Over Now podcast, I don't tell you what to think. I just want you to think. I put the information out there to provoke you to think for yourself. And that's what the media is banking on, that you won't think for yourself, but you will consciously absorb any information that comes from them as truth. And that's what most people have done. But aren't you glad we are waking up and we're becoming conscious people and we are beginning to think for ourselves? Now, ironically, the majority of mainstream media are owned by the same companies that control Hollywood. Yep. So that's why this is the future in the current state of the media and of the entertainment industry. Because in many ways, they are connected. Now, who controls the US media? That's what you got to answer the question. And when you ask the question and find the answers, you can draw a conclusion of the question that I asked you in the beginning of the show, and that was, is mainstream media a clear lens for you to see through, to receive truth and to receive clarity? In television, the vast majority of broadcast and basic cable networks are controlled by 7 major corporations. Now, I want you to do the parallel yourself. Fox Corporation, Walt Disney Company, which includes and owns ABC, ESPN, FX, the Disney brands, all the Disney brands connected to Hollywood, Disney, the Walt Disney Company, connected to the entertainment industry, Hollywood, National Amusements, which owns Paramount Global. You know, you pay that extra for for Paramount every month. Comcast, which owns NBC Universal, Hollywood. Warner, which makes it very convenient because they have a controlling interest in Hollywood. Are you getting it? Are you really getting it? So let's put the pieces together. Most of the media companies that control the media, that control the narrative, and what we see is the reporters, they report with their total report. Yeah, they report. They report with their total report. And if they go outside the boundaries, you'll end up like, well, I won't name any names, but you know. Have you shared yet? Have you smashed that like? Most of mainstream media, the corporations and the owners, remember Ted Turner founded CNN, are connected directly to Hollywood, the entertainment industry, according to reports. Now, you may say, D. Foster, why is this a relevant discussion? So what? What? Why you got me on here talking about this? Because if we're discussing the current and future state of the media, and it's obvious that less and less people are believing in the media, like obviously from last show, less and less people are believing in politicians and politics. It's obvious that less and less people believe what is reported, because somehow we pick up that the reporting is biased now, and it's all coming together now. Case in point, you say, give me case in point. Well, without getting into graphic detail on this show, but there's a big issue in happening in the entertainment industry, where one of the major African Americans, record label owner, producer, y'all know who I'm talking about, P. Diddy, was sued by Cassie. And out from that, a Pandora's box opened. And let me make my point. Where we get that information is not been on, for the most part, mainstream media. And I have said it for a year. The bloggers, say what you want, and podcasts like this have become the independent prophets. Yeah, I said it. When it comes to reporting truth and facts. Yeah, I said it. Because mainstream media, when you work for it, you cannot report what you want to report. There is an agenda. And then we see all of these companies that own them. MSNBC, CNN, ABC are connected to companies like Warner Brothers and Disney and Fox, directly connected to the entertainment industry. I tell you what to report because you must protect our industry. See, it is really not about the individual. It's about protecting their ability to make you money. And so with all this going on, we heard this about the story. They may mention it in a 30-minute or 30-second clip. Because, and I could go on and on and on and on. I can go on and on and on and give you an example. That's not the point. I think you know enough examples yourself. But the purpose is we see the rabbit trail. And we see how mainstream media reports with a slant depending on its agenda. Now, the only way I see, because I don't only come with the issue, I try to bring you some of the solutions. The only way I see media remaining relevant and believable, media has to be, like politicians, you must be believable. Like they say, real, no real. You must be, it's kind of like a politician standing up giving a speech, and you're like, somebody just came to my mind in Maryland. They don't even believe that themselves. They don't believe that. That's the script they were given. Why should we believe you? Because you don't even believe yourself. But in she ways, the only way I see media surviving in the future and remaining relevant and believable, because it can exist, but if we don't believe a thing your reporters are saying or your stories, so what? And advertisers, me being in media for sometimes, understand advertisers purchase advertising based on numbers. Advertisers in mainstream based on how many people are watching this. And that's why, in my opinion, you see in mainstream media, even in radio, take another turn in direction, because people are tired of the narrative being controlled. People are tired of money and power controlling the narrative. And what I see will be the only salvation for media in the future is what we saw happen in 2020 when we saw the rise of brand new platforms and new voices with no agenda coming with the facts via streams like this, podcasts like this, or blogs. And as I said before, and you may disagree, and that's your right, I believe the bloggers are the new prophets because they are unbought and unsold. And I believe a surge of independent media must come about for people to still believe the media is relevant and believable. But for the mainstreams, because it's obvious they have an agenda. It's certain things they're not going to report. It's certain truths they're not going to tell. There's certain people they are going to tarnish. There's certain people they are going to cover for. That's their interest. And I think we are too smart to drink the Kool-Aid today. And a lot of what's happening, if it wasn't for social media or YouTube or Hulu, or we wouldn't even know what's going on. So here's my conclusion. It's going to take real, dedicated, independent journalists, commentators. That's one of the things I do. What you hear today is my commentary, uncontrolled, unbought, unbiased, straight, no chaser. So it's going to take independent journalists, commentators, investigators, somebody who has that Scorpio spirit that's ruled by Pluto, that's determined to get to the truth. And when we get that en masse, and here's the issue, because they're independent, they are going to need our financial support. What happens to independent media and independent voices? They fade out. As I was saying on an introductory podcast, because it takes money to report. There's equipment, there are platforms, there's certain things even here we have to do. We need equipment. We're going to upgrade this podcast. This is just the beginning. But my point was, if there's going to be the survival of believable and relevant media and information and stories coming out, it's going to be, the mainstream is never going to do it. Never, ever, 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 ever. It's not for in their best interest because they have too much to protect. And then you have politicians that support mainstream media. So that's a whole conglomerate. But there still is truth to uncover. There still are stories to report. There still is commentary, clarity that is needed. And I think it'll come through platforms like this, independent, unbought, unpaid for by corporations and elites, free to report, investigate, interview witnesses, people. And when we see that and we support that, and I think this is where we need to grow. We've only been trying to support that which is mainstream. But I see the tide shifting. And I said when 2020 came and we had that, no one could go out, no one could, be live in studios and stations, and everybody had to do everything remote. And there's the emergence of Zoom. One thing I said then, and one thing I stand by now, the media ground playing field has been leveled. That everybody can have a voice, and nobody individually rather, can control the narrative. And that shifted the media. Because now, just for example, it's the news report versus my report. So if I'm on the scene with a camera phone and a recorder, and the news is creating a narrative, it's no longer just the news is right. It's mainstream versus independent. And I bless the ones that are doing it right in integrity, the independent bloggers, those who are using streams, platforms to give us the information. And that's why every now and then I'll sow a seed. May not be a whole lot, but this is to encourage you. Keep feeding us the truth. So my closing is, the current state of media is in transition. We're moving from, in my opinion, mainstream to independent, unbought, unpaid, intelligent, professional, investigative, putting the work in, commentator, journalist, who will finally bring us to truth. And after a couple of years, I predict mainstream, when we no longer feed into it, believe it, advertisers stop, it'll be a thing of the past. Because we're in the age of Aquarius. And there is no one top dog in any field anymore. The time has come when the playing field has been leveled. That's my take. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, don't forget to follow. I hope you enjoy this. Let us hear from you if you can. Our email address is thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. The Voice Over the Globe. See how we combine Wake Up Global Networks and the Voice Over the Globe@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you. Don't forget, if you are led, please support PayPal or Zelle. Wake Up, WAKEUPP03@gmail.com. We got a lot of work to do. We're just getting started. Until next week, remember, you have a voice. Use it.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.